If you have $500,000 saved for retirement, here's what I want you to know right away. That number alone doesn't tell you whether you're going to be okay. I know that's not the reassurance most people are looking for, but it's the most important thing that I can say. Because the people who run into serious trouble in retirement aren't usually the ones who save too little. They're the ones who never connected what they saved to what they actually need to do with it long term in retirement. I had a conversation not long ago with someone in their mid 60s, just a few months away from retiring. They had about $500,000 set aside, and they've been careful, consistent, and patient for decades. They came and asked me a question I hear constantly. I think I'm okay, right? I asked them one question back. How much income do you actually need from that money that you saved? They didn't have a clear answer. And that's the key figure, the key term that you must know and understand. Let's understand together, what is the income gap? So it's not the portfolio, but it's the overall understanding of your retirement plan. So today I want to walk you through a simple framework that will give you a much clearer picture of where you actually stand and this key figure of the income gap. Let's not look at this in theory, but in terms of specific numbers and a specific example situation. So let's start with step one. So step one is stop focusing only on your account balances. The first shift that needs to happen is moving away from your account balance as the primary measure of retirement readiness. Your balance is a starting point. It's not an answer. The real question is, what does that money need to produce? Specifically, how much income does it actually need to generate consistently year after year to support the lifestyle you're planning to live in retirement? So that is your income gap. And it's a number that everything else is built upon. And so let us begin to calculate it and understand how this figure is calculated overall. We'll start first with your total annual expenses in retirement, then subtract from that any guaranteed income sources, such as Social Security, a pension, or anything else that comes in regardless of what your portfolio does. Potentially, this would be things like rental income, maybe guaranteed income from a lifetime benefit annuity. And now what's left over, that amount, is what has to come from your portfolio to cover all of your remaining needs. So let's just use a very straightforward example to begin with. Let's say your retirement requires $6,000 a month of spending or $72,000 a year. And Social Security, let's just assume, provides $3,000 a month of benefits for you, and that would be $36,000 a year. Now, there's no other specific guaranteed income amounts, so just Social Security in this situation. So your income gap is $36,000 per year, and that's what your portfolio needs to generate or allow you to withdraw over time. Now, we can actually test whether this $500,000 is enough or not by using just a couple pieces here of a calculation. So step two, the formula that really gives you a clear answer. Let's understand this together. Once we know your income gap, there's one simple calculation that tells you a great deal about the long-term sustainability of that long-term retirement plan. This is math, but it's really a simple calculation. Let's take your annual income gap and divide it by your liquid assets. So in this example, we have $36,000 of gap, and we divide that by $500,000 of assets. That equals a 7.2% withdrawal rate. Now, that's the percentage of your portfolio that you need to withdraw each year to cover the gap. Now, let's put this number into context. So let's do that through step three. Step three is what a sustainable withdrawal rate actually looks like historically. Now, a withdrawal rate in the range of 4% to 5% has been associated historically as a safe overall withdrawal rate for a portfolio lasting about 25 to 30 years or more. And even leaving at times the bulk of the beginning principal in place if we have fairly decent historical type market returns over that period. So that starting figure of 4% to 5% is generally for 25 to 30 year type retirement periods. So keep in mind, if you're retiring a lot earlier, let's say age 50 to 55, then you may want to use your portfolio for a good 40 years, even more, then a smaller withdrawal rate would likely make sense. Likewise, if you're working until age 75, and your retirement window is maybe only 15 or 20 years, then a higher withdrawal rate is still likely appropriate. Now at 7.2% and in their 60s in this example, the withdrawal rate is unfortunately well outside of that range of 4 to 5%. And that doesn't mean retirement is impossible with $500,000, But it shows that at that withdrawal rate, the portfolio would be under significant pressure. And relatively small setbacks, like an early market decline in retirement or inflation running higher than expected for a few years, could have an outsized impact on how long the money lasts. So here's what makes this particularly important. Most people don't realize where they stand until they've already retired. And at that point, the options of what to do differently, they really narrow considerably. So step 4, what the number actually tells you is to understand if your withdrawal rate comes out around 4 to 5%, you're likely in a solid position, assuming the rest of the plan is structured reasonably well. If it's in the 6% or maybe 6.5% range, that's a signal that adjustments are probably worth considering before you retire. Now, doing this while you still have more flexibility and minor adjustments could make a lot of difference. Now, if it's maybe above 6.5, 7%, that's a more serious flag. It's not a verdict, but a clear indication that something in the plan probably needs to change. And obviously doing this before you retire would be ideal. Most people want a simple answer, but the honest answer is there isn't really a simple one to this key question. There are a few levers that can be pulled or choices that can be made to improve the long-term sustainability if you find yourself with a higher withdrawal level. So step 5, let's understand 4 levers you can pull if the numbers don't work the way that you need to. And there really are just maybe 4 things roughly that you could adjust. Not many more than that. And so going through these quickly here, the first one is working longer. So even just 1 to 3 additional years can make a meaningful difference in your long-term retirement. It reduces how long your portfolio needs to sustain you. It gives you more time to keep saving. And in many cases, your Social Security benefit would continue to increase. So it's often the most impactful lever available, even if it's not always the most appealing one. Now, the second option, the second lever, is increasing what you're able to put away before you retire. So that might mean more aggressive saving in the final years, generating additional income, or freeing up capital through decisions like downsizing. Small movements here can shift the math more than people expect. The third is just adjusting your expected spending. It's not overly exciting if you're thinking about retirement, but this is the one that most people are reluctant to examine, but also they have a lot of control over. And so ultimately, every dollar your plan doesn't need to replace is a dollar that reduces pressure on your portfolio. The question worth asking is, where can spending be reduced without meaningfully changing the quality of the retirement that you're planning for? And so fourth, which I mentioned more to make a point than as a genuine strategy, is just to have an end that is a shorter time frame than maybe you're going into retirement with. Now, the challenge here is we don't know how long we're going to live. And so ultimately, we probably need to plan for more of this longer retirement timeline. And the stakes are real here because longevity is a factor that a lot of folks are going to deal with. Retirement plans often these days need to work for over 20 years, if not over for 30 years. So that reality is worth building into the plan honestly, not hoping it doesn't become relevant. But at the end of the day, if you have a shorter time period, it could certainly allow you to have a higher withdrawal rate. So step 6, what this math doesn't capture is that there's a lot of plans that are built on reasonable looking numbers that could still run into problems. Even if your withdrawal rate appears sustainable, there are factors that can quietly erode a plan that looks solid on paper. And so reasonable looking numbers, they could still run into problems over time. Taxes could be one thing that we look at. Taxes are one of the most significant, if not the largest expenses any folks will pay in retirement. If the majority of your savings are held in pre-tax retirement accounts, every dollar you withdraw is taxed as ordinary income. And that changes what you actually keep versus what the plan assumes you can spend. Now, Social Security timing is another one. Claiming at the wrong time or without coordinating it with other income sources can reduce lifetime income, potentially even increase your tax exposure in ways that compound over years. Market volatility in the early years of retirement matters more than most people realize. If a significant decline happens in the first few years while you're actively withdrawing, it could permanently reduce the base from which your portfolio is growing. Now that's a timing problem, not just a market problem. The healthcare costs, which tend to grow faster than general inflation, can create real pressure later in retirement that a plan built on today's assumptions doesn't fully account for. Now, none of these factors are reasons to give up on a plan, but they're reasons why retirement planning isn't just math. It's coordination, making sure each piece works together with the others rather than against them. Step 7, what confidence actually looks like. I want you to picture something for a moment. You're 5 years into retirement. Markets have had some difficult stretches. Inflation's been a little uneven. You're sitting there asking yourself whether the plan is still holding up. Now, picture a different version of that moment. You're not wondering, but you know. Your income is structured and accounted for. Your taxes have been managed thoughtfully. Your plan was built with flexibility for exactly these kinds of conditions. And the answer to, are we okay, is certainly a yes. Not because things went perfectly, because the plan was designed to hold up even when things don't go as expected. That's the difference between arriving at retirement with a number and arriving with a plan. So $500,000 could be enough for the right person, with the right income gap, with the overall plan structured the right way. It can absolutely be enough. But that determination has to come from understanding how the whole plan fits together, not from the balances alone. If you'd like help working through that calculation for your own situation, there's a link in the description to schedule a free consultation. We'll map out your income gap, your withdrawal rate, and what a coordinated, integrated retirement plan looks like given your specific numbers. Because the goal isn't to just guess and hope it works out, but it's to know for sure that this plan is worth pursuing. Before you're depending on it, it makes sense to have clarity around this. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.